Southwest Fire Academy was established in 2015 as a response to the recognized need for quality, safe, and affordable fire and rescue training in Ontario. This is not your average fire college. SFA has high standards for their students, and it is their mission to teach and produce qualified, ambitious firefighters who are prepared to work hard to serve their communities. This is not a diploma mill. This is where you can learn strategic, aggressive firefighting from passionate, intelligent instructors who never forget why they were made to do this job. SFA is an accredited private career college that is regulated by the Ministry of Training, colleges, and universities, with a memorandum of understanding with the Office of the Fire Marshal. This means that SFA is an approved training provider with the OFM, and the programs are recognized in Ontario. Check out their pre-service and expanding selection of course offerings at southwestfireacademy.ca. Hello everyone. Welcome to episode 121 of Multiple Calls. I'm Scott Hewlett. Applying a strategy, tactic, or skill for the first time, in real time, is akin to a leap of faith. It takes trust in the origin of the training you received, the person or people that shared it with you, and in yourself to be able to perform it effectively. After the fact, it requires reflection on the application, to know what variables affected the process and result. What defines perfection in reality versus perfection in practice is something that instructors often neglect to discuss, even though it's arguably one of the most important things for responders to understand. What feels clunky on a call compared to the practice runs could actually be the best it could be applied. The perfect reps in controlled environments are meant to be situational and visceral reference points, to provide us with feedback which we can adjust from. This is what it actually means to adapt and overcome. If you are thrust into a professional fight with a trained fighter, adrenaline isn't going to save you, and you aren't going to figure it out when they get to you. You're going to get destroyed. When you have foundational principles and a skill set, you can adapt to and overcome the combination of real-time variables that can't be replicated. If you're a firefighter that only stretches a line when it's needed on a call or when you have to during training, you are missing the highest value opportunities for improvement. Calls that aren't high acuity are the bridge between training and the calls when time matters. Don't squander them. Anytime you need to mask up at a call, no matter how mundane the reason, use the process you are trying to improve your time with. Reps in training matter. Reps that weren't planned matter more, and reps when it counts are the ones that highlight whether you have made the effort with the first two. Here's my chat with Brent Brooks.
Hey.
Hey, man.
Oh, there he is. I just got to turn my volume up.
Right on. How you doing?
Good, buddy.
Nice.
Woo. Running around like crazy.
No, I know you're a busy guy.
Story of my life.
Yeah.
So are you, though. I mean, we're all busy. That's what we do. I was talking to Jimmy Davis and then Clark, and we all kind of just got, lost for time. I worked, 24 hours. So we ran 29 calls on Friday. We had 9 fires, believe it or not.
Wow.
Didn't recover. And then you got that Saturday, you're back in Sunday, and then we were 20 plus some runs. Yeah, you got that almost like a baby brain mind on. But yeah, we're good.
I just recently learned about the Detroit shift. I didn't know that there's like a super unique shift that they work.
No, what's that?
I believe it's 1 on, 1 off, 1 on, 5 off or something like that. It's something every week they get 5 off.
Yeah. Venice, Florida, I think is like that too. Or I don't know if you know Scott Blanchard, but he used to work there.
Okay.
Yeah. I
didn't hit you up when it happened because I figured your phone would be exploding over the Hong Kong fire.
It did explode, and the both times BBC, those different news stations were reaching out to me. I said, I can't. I'm actually on work today with Toronto Fire. I can't contribute. So then a retired Toronto Fire, Retuzniak, he did it with Jack Murphy from New York, another retired guy, and it was perfect. And then Colette, who's like an FDIC, he's a professor, he did one as well. And Yeah, it's kind of good that I stayed neutral, just because I still work for Toronto Fire and we're certainly not perfect. Looking at it, I know two guys from Hong Kong. I reached out to them and they're going on about that green netting. They're going on a bunch of stuff, but it was really the chimney effect that had a big impact on that fire. When we do ventilation, if you remove the screens, what a big difference that makes. Well, that's a screen, so you have that void. And now you have that travel. And speaking with the Hong Kong firefighter, he said they put that rigid foam on all of the glass to protect it from people hitting with the bamboo to protect the construction. And that was the problem. The bamboo and the ties and that green mesh was just a byproduct of that. But it was the foam board and the fact that you have a chimney effect on the outside of a building. You're just not going to win that. What I'm interested in finding out is the timings of everything. So we know like the timings from, kind of like start to finish, but it'd be important to find out how fast that fire truly spread and how fast that smoke filled the building, because that would kind of dictate, that whole shelter in place evacuation, what to do and not to do. It'll be a good case study. Because knowing Hong Kong firefighters, they are truly second to none. They're a paramilitary organization. They have a physical fitness test every year. And if you're not fit, and I mean like your type of fitness, you're not able to wear SCBA, or you go to the fire prevention thing. And that fitness level so high, on average, you get about 8 years that you can go in interior.
Wow.
And we're age 65 or age 60, depending on the department, of continuing to go interior. So it's not from their lack of, trying, so to speak, right?
Yeah, or competence or capability wow.
Yeah.
And then you had another unique one with that space between two buildings in Toronto.
And we did. And I got there on day 3. So I said, has any of the high-rise crews used that opposing tip nozzles? And they said, no. I said, well, we're going to try it. So we get it. We're flooding it. And they kept saying, shut the water down. The abatement company's here. Like, you're causing water damage. So I shut it down and I go down and look, and you can see the water coming down the wall. I'm like, but this fire's not out. There's no such thing as water damage. It's a hidden void. We should be able to fill it. So I go back up, turn it on. I fill the void. It's starting to bubble up top. I'm super happy. I ask where the fire started. They said it started in the basement. Go to the basement. And I'm thinking, okay, I can't get my opposing tip nozzle in here. I'm looking at blueprints and there's just too many angles. So I'm only getting 8 inches. So I'm up top. I can get 8 stories. It's a 12-story building. We're getting close. Day 7, so I was there on day 6, but I'm leaving on day 7. A good friend of mine, actually, he's a volunteer firefighter as well. He comes up because, yeah, Brooksy, that fire started on the outside of the building. I'm like, what do you mean it started on the outside of the building? He goes, yeah, the plumbers were working, doing some welding on the inside of this cap. And then it went into the basement. There's such a slow spreading fire. So guys are coring holes. Every apartment had multiple holes. Some walls are taken down. They tried helium. We had dry ice, and then they were pouring foam. They did
such a unique one.
Oh, it's frustrating. We got about another 25 other buildings in the city like that.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. I talked to one engineer, and she said, well, basically they built that building, the big one, and then they put the tent test against it, and then they basically used that as a form to build that second building. Makes total sense. Mm-hmm. But now we're in trouble.
So is anything going to be done then on those other 25, or are there concerns?
So I guess last night was our, officially turned it over. So we have no more fire trucks as of yesterday. So we're into day 12, I think they said last night, but don't quote me on that. But I think it was day 12. Yeah, crazy. We'll get there.
Yeah. Want to dive into it?
Let's do it.
Okay. Kick things off and tell me about where you grew up.
I grew up in Nova Scotia, Canada. Small province, great province. A lot of the East Coasters move elsewhere through Canada, and they end up coming back, most of them, believe it or not, because it's such a great place to live. But you kind of start in the East Coast and move westward, or start from the westward and move to the center. And my dad was an RCMP officer. And back then, you couldn't be an RCMP officer in the same province as your family, so they had to move. My dad had 4 brothers, 4 sisters. 3 of them were in the RCMP as well, so they were spread out throughout Canada. And my dad ended up going from New Brunswick, where his family was, moving to Nova Scotia, where they had me and my twin brother, and then got promoted and moved to Ontario. Turned down promotions, I think, throughout his career just to keep us in the province of Ontario.
What did Mom do?
Mom was a registered nurse, but while my brother and I were growing up, She still went to university, and she went up to university up to age 65, believe it or not. I asked her, what's she doing? And she says, it's really about teaching you to stay in school, to keep educating yourself. And, that message that she gave me is still true today. I'm at 31 years on as a firefighter, and I'm still learning. I'm still going to school. So thank my mom for, setting that good example. Thank my dad for, his ability to teach as well.
Are your brother and you identical or fraternal?
We're fraternal. Yeah, he's a engineer. Good son, bad son. I'm the bad son.
Speaking of which, tell me about school.
Went to school in Mississauga, and then I ended up going to Brampton and got in lots of trouble. I haven't been diagnosed with ADHD, but I mean, it's pretty clear, most firefighters with that type A personality have it. So I was always getting into trouble, always a shit disturber. Nothing changed in the fire academy, still got in lots of trouble, still a shit disturber. And throughout my career, it's the same thing. You're just trying so hard and you meet such good people. Everyone's got their personalities and you gel. And people that gel are going to get themselves in trouble. And that's what you see in the fire service. So no regrets. Nothing that got me in trouble that landed up in jail. Nothing that got me fired. Yeah, but certainly that's what you do as kids. And I think that's the type of person you want in firefighting. That person knows how to toe the line, know if you go overboard, you're going to jail, or in our profession, you're going to get hurt or you're going to get killed. So yeah, we need more guys like us, I think.
Were the school changes because of behavior, or were you just moving around?
It was because of behavior, believe it or not. I guess I had a learning disability. Again, never really diagnosed back then. It was more, yelling and screaming and getting in trouble. You know what? We're going to send you to this school. My brother went to the school closest to us, and I went to, another school, and classroom sizes were much smaller. You had a lot of one-on-one. It didn't really change anything. You're a young boy, you're excitable, you want to join the military, you want to join the fire department, you want to be part of that group and culture. It's hard to sit still. It's hard to stay at a desk.
What about sports and hobbies? If you were super active, were you involved in those?
That goes back to my dad. So Boy Scout leader. So I got into Beavers, I got into Cubs. Then I joined T-ball and he was the coach. And then we did baseball and he was the coach. And then we did hockey and, he was the assistant coach. Joined the Air Cadets. He would volunteer with that as well. So we were always active in those sports. Nothing, pro level. A little bit of golf here and there, but kept us busy. Camping, I mean, it's not a sport, but when we camped, it was true roughing, cutting down trees, making your own shelters, making your own fires. Looking back, I can use a knife, I can use an axe, I can use a chainsaw, I can run a wood splitter. Perfect fit for the fire department.
Did you thrive with the structure because of these things you were involved in were active, but did you like the structure like Air Cadets, Beavers, and Scouts? It's a different kind of structure than it is for in school.
It is, and I think I needed that. And what I like about organizations like that is I can see my career path. I can see when I'm going to be a corporal. I can see a master corporal and sergeant. I joined the reserves as well, but I can actually see my career path. I can see my career path with the fire department. But when you're in school, I got math, I got science, I got this, I got that. Where's my career path? It was all foggy. So, joining the military, the Air Cadets and the sports teams, and now I can actually visually see where I need to get to. So if anyone's struggling with that, join an organization, volunteer if you have to, but yeah, get it off your chest if you have that type of energy.
Have a purpose.
Yeah.
What jobs did you do before fire service?
Delivered papers at a very young age, up at 5:30, delivering papers. That was great. BMX bike. And then I worked for McDonald's. And then I went from McDonald's to one of my dad's friends who retired from the RCMP, opened a St. Clair paint and wallpaper. They said, listen, we just need some muscle in here. Come every Friday and start unloading paint cans. No problem. I can do that. Don't have to dress up. And then the boss said, hey, listen, I need you to dress up because you're unloading paint cans. You're in the store. Maybe just dress up a bit. So then I dressed up. Then people started asking me questions about designs, about blinds. And then they said, hey, would you mind, working with us part-time after school, working for St. Clair? I'm like, sure. So I took an interior decorator course. I got 98%. And then I found out I kind of had a flair for, design, which is great because now being a firefighter, I know design, I know architectural, And I'm still doing that today, with the council tall buildings or working with the designers and engineers. Why did you put that facade on the outside of the building? Why that color? Why that glass? Why that glazing? How is it built? How is it put together? And that transfers into firefighting, that when that product burns or when that fire spreads, hey, I have a great idea on where that's going and what it's all about. So it's different. Normally, when you're trying to get on the fire department, it's like, you're going to take scuba, you're going to, read blueprints. But yeah, it's a different way to get experience with the fire department through St. Clair paint and wallpaper.
Unknowingly.
Yeah, unknowingly. Exactly. Yeah.
You end up in a crash fire rescue at Pearson?
I did. And it's funny because when I went to high school, they're like, you got to put this kid in a co-op program, get him out there. He can't sit still at his desk. So I did a co-op with Crash Fire Rescue at Pearson, Canada's biggest airport, super young. And the chief says, we'd love to hire this guy. He cleans the trucks. He's into the job. He washes hose. He washes windows. He doesn't sit still. He'd be a great candidate. Yeah. Ended up putting an application, got hired. Everyone that worked there at the time, because it wasn't part of the GTAA, it wasn't really part of the private Pearson that it is now, it was part of Transport Canada. So everyone that worked there was ex-military, or they came from the military firefighters. So I'm working with a great group of guys. They understand me. I understand them. It was a great working relationship. My problem is you're watching the news. You see Toronto firefighters. You see firefighters out going residential, throwing ladders, car accidents, and all that good stuff. And I'm like, man, like this crash fire rescue stuff's great, but I'm preparing for something that may never get to do. And then that's why I went from R for crash fire rescue to structural firefighting. But I have respect for them because that's where I started.
What was your first exposure to the fire service, though?
So when I was in the Air Cadets, Major Bob Beck, he's since passed away, but he was volunteering his time. He was a Mississauga firefighter, and he always talked about firefighting. He's excitable and he's telling these great stories, and I think that's the only time I could really sit still is when you have a storyteller, but they're real stories, and it's exciting. So he kind of brought that on. I always wanted to be a SARTech, search and rescue technician, and then we had, I don't know how old I was. It was in the Air Cadets. I think we were 13 years, maybe 14. And I'm staying at a friend's house. So there's me, my brother, a dog, a Samoyed, believe it or not, was in the house, my buddy's parents, and we're sleeping in the basement. And we had a wood stove going, and it started getting really hot. And this couch had a skirt on it. So I stuck my head underneath the skirt because it was too hot. And, it got nice, cool air there and everything's going good. And then I feel pain in my feet. So I take my head out to see why my feet were hurting and my sleeping bag's on fire. And then I got my brother on one side, my buddy Chris on the other side, and they're completely unconscious. And the room has a good fire going. It's coming up. Our sleeping bags, the carpet, it's rolling up the wall and it's tracking up the stairs. I'm shaking my brother, waking my friend, I get the back patio door open. I get the door open, drag them out. And it was winter time. So you got, no socks, no shoes on. You're a kid. There's a lot of excitement going on. You're scared. But during all that, I kind of did remain calm. And, we run around the front of the house. The door's locked. You're banging on the door. My buddy's dad wakes up. He gets the Samoyed dog. He gets a sister. Yeah, that was a good taste of reality on what, my future is going to hold, so to speak. So they get us out. I had no shoes on and they put us in a police car. So I'm in this police car and I had smoke inhalation and the heat's on. I'm having a little bit of a panic attack as I can't breathe. And I'm kicking the window of the police car and it's a true panic. And I remember my buddy's sister, and I never found out later exactly what happened to her, but she's banging, like I'm banging on the window. She opens the door, we get out and she goes, come in the neighbor's house. That's where we all are. So we go inside the neighbor's house and then that's when the first firefighter showed up. He goes, who was in the basement? I'm like, I was, and I'm excited, it's firefighter. And then he starts laying into us. It was an interrogation and the cops there. And, what were you doing? Were you playing with matches? What happened down there? And, you could have been killed. And we're wide eye. And, even though I was a shit disturber, I was always an honest kid and I did tell the truth. And your heroes really are interrogating you. And that was tough. And then I mentioned that we were part of the Air Cadets, Mississauga 845 Squadron, and our Major Beck was our boss, and Major Beck was a chief with Mississauga, and they backed off because they knew that we were good kids and we were telling the truth. But that could have derailed my fire service wannabe. But it ended up well, and that's what that generation did, right? You had a lot of bark to try and get to the bottom of things. But at the end of the day, it was barbecue briquettes that were in a firebox next to the fireplace. And because it was so hot in there, they ended up self-igniting.
Wow.
And it's interesting now because, fast forward 30 some years, now when you get that fire, you're thinking, okay, was it kids playing with fire? Or was it those briquettes? Because that's what happened in my experience. Was it electrical? And now I analyze things in a different perspective. I think that although it was not a good experience, I think it was a good experience long-term because it made me more open to different perspectives and get to the bottom of things, investigate before you actually accuse somebody of something.
And do you think you have a better appreciation for what fire victims are experiencing before we get there or after, that maybe a lot of firefighters don't have that perspective because they haven't been a fire victim?
Man, that's a great question, and 100%. You pull out of the hall and you got a fire, you could hear the chatter on the radio, things are happening, and you pull up and everyone's fixated on the fire. I'm actually looking at a bigger picture, like where are these victims? Where's the fire not? So my size up, I'm not fixated on that fire, I'm looking at the big picture. So thank you, Mississauga firefighters, and Peel Police was the agency for the interrogation. I wasn't waterboarded or anything like that, but it was.
It felt that way when you were a kid, yeah.
It did feel that way, yeah. Yeah.
So why didn't you pursue the SARTech thing more seriously and chose fire instead?
Man, even now it's like one of those maybe missed things because you watch U.S. Navy SEALs. It was a movie back in the day, and you look at today's SARTechs. Yeah, it's something I kind of wish I did, but at that time we're living in Ontario, and to be a SARTech, you had to go to the east or west coast, and then you had to join the Coast Guard. And going through the military, going through the Air Cadets and stuff, they're like, "Oh, you never want to join the Coast Guard. All you're going to do is sail ships and drop buoys." But yeah, it's one of those things I wish I would have done. But you got to pick one or the other.
What was recruit class like?
We had a small recruit class. It was actually part of North York back in the day. Great bunch of firefighters. Unfortunately, some of us have passed away from cancer. We had another guy take his own life, unfortunately. But great group of firefighters. The whole shit disturbing thing didn't change, but we made it through recruit class. We had an open cab truck in the recruit class. We could ride the tailboard from the fire station down to the training ground, leather strap. So I got that good experience of the baby boomers and plus Generation X. So yeah, it was good. Actually, they moved me to the front of the class. I would probably be fired actually today if you think about it. But I was moved to the front of the class, and they could watch me, and the instructor was right there. They had these giant 3-ring binders, and you had a bunch of them. So I'm doing the head knob, and I fall asleep, and the 3-ring binder was open. And it caught me between my eye and my nose, and it went inside. I punctured it. Ugh. So obviously that woke me up, and my face is bleeding. I look up at the instructor, and he's a seasoned firefighter, but I put some fear into him. He was shocked to see that, and that was actually a good thing because it gave me a little bit of sympathy. Like maybe we shouldn't fire this guy. We can't now because he almost lost his eye in the recruit class over a 3-ring binder.
And you must be more gracious being an instructor in front of people now when they have trouble. Some people it doesn't matter who's speaking, right? They just have a hard time as soon as they stop moving and sit still.
You're right. And I still see that today where in the military is the same thing. You're always falling asleep in class because you're up all night and it's just the stress of it all. And then you come and, you may not be eating properly. You get tired. You close your eyes. And I kid you not, I can close my eyes and I can still listen. But when I'm fighting to stay awake, it's all gone. I am 100% focused on staying awake. I'm not absorbing anything from the class. So, you can stand up, go to the back. But the reality is I'd be standing up all the time. So now when I teach and I understand diets, I understand, people's stress. And if you close your eyes in my class, I will not say anything. I just won't. Close your eyes. Stand up if you have to. I want you to be comfortable. I want you to listen. And if the whole class falls asleep, well, that might be on me. But yeah, let's go out and do some drills. So now when I volunteer my time to a fire department, and you've been witness to this, let's do 4 hours in the morning. Let's have lunch. And it's all hands-on all afternoon. This upcoming study we're doing in November, same thing. We're writing the schedule for it, and they're like, we're going to have 3 days of classroom, and then we'll do the hands-on the last 2 days. I'm like, that's a great idea, but having experience and teaching and being a student, what if we did 4 hours in the morning and hands-on every single day? What type of student are we going to get? You're going to come in, you're off the slow start. I can sit there with my coffee. I can listen to a lecture. Then I'm going to go have a big lunch. I'm going to fall asleep the second I get back in class. Now you're not, because we're going to be going out. We're doing hands-on. I think it sets you up for success. We're adding both worlds in the exact same day.
They're more apt to pay attention and be focused for those hours because they know it's only that short period of time.
Exactly. Going back to that, I want to know my expectations. I don't want to know what my day looks like. We'll tell you exactly what your day is going to look like. You're going to have 4 hours of classroom in the morning and 4 hours of hands-on in the afternoon. And when you leave, and you'll see this when you take like a 3-day or 4-day training course, when you leave and that drive home, you're exhausted, you're tired just from sitting in the classroom. But when I leave a hands-on training, it's like going to the gym. I'm pumped, I'm excited, I'm thinking about my hands-on stuff. I sleep better that night. The next morning, I'm going to start with, at a slow pace inside the classroom, and I'm going to ramp it up after lunch. I'm going to go home feeling like $1,000,000. So, we might be onto something here. Maybe other departments should try that. Training groups try that, and I feel bad for the recruits. It's a torture to keep them in class 8 hours a day, and eventually they just can't absorb it. Just I'm in class, get out there and do the practical related to that hands-on, and you could do that every day. I think you'll get a better candidate.
Yeah, agreed. How were the rookie years?
Good. They called me Black Cloud back in the day. It was different back then. I could have been fired, but they definitely would have been fired for their type of leadership style. But that was part of our generation, part of the culture back then. But we were busy. We didn't have the same type of PPE. I think it was my first week, so I had a VSA. But again, as a rookie, you think this is normal. You're going to have VSAs every day. You're going to have fires every day. So I had my first VSA day one, right off the hop. To me, that's normal. They're like, oh, you got your VSA on your first day. And then we got this hazmat. It was a toluene truck that flipped over on the highway. Our boots were getting all gummy with this glue type compound. They had to take our boots. They didn't have spare boots. So now we're wearing bunker gear with running shoes for the next shift. And it was that next shift, I get this third alarm high-rise fire. Again, I think this is normal. And we get there, you get up to the fire floor. It's a dirty hallway. The door's open. A 38 millimeter hose, so 1.5-inch hose line with a fog nozzle, everything that we don't use today. And zero visibility. I drop the pack. I open it up. I grab the bungee cord. I unhook the bungee cord. There's zero visibility. And I run it back to the hallway. I run out of hose. I come back, grab the nozzle. And the firefighter is charging the standpipe. We go in, we're flowing water, the room flashes over, the window frame blew out on the lawn. And I remember thinking, I feel like I'm alone right now. Like there's nobody else with me. We're having a great time. And I looked behind me, nobody there. It was just me. Then I guess when the room flashed, the senior firefighter and the captain bailed down the stairs. The senior firefighter kept going. My captain met the new crew coming up. He goes, Brooks, he's still in there. Go in and back him up. I remember following the line back up, and I run into a pair of running shoes. And I got excited because I knew that was our guys. They were wearing bunker gear and running shoes because we lost our boots on the Monday. This fire was on the Thursday. So looking back now, I wouldn't change anything. It was exciting. It gives us these stories to tell the next recruits of what not to do, what went right, what went wrong. And I'm sure, these recruits today, they're going to have something similar, the same type of stories. Can you believe that, back in the day, we were struggling to put out lithium ion, and today it's nothing. So I think that's just going to continue to happen. We're going to make mistakes. We weren't allowed to wear our breathing apparatus during overhaul. And that fire, hey, take your mask off, kid, take your mask off. So you take your mask off, and now you can't see. I just thought, okay, that's just burning, whatever that is. It's just smoke burning my eyes. Now it's hydrogen cyanide, all this bad chemicals. But you're sitting there trying to do overhaul. You can't see. You got snot running down your nose. You're coughing. You're hacking. But you just think that's normal. That's what we do. And now we know, don't be doing stuff like that. So the fire service is changing.
Did you get into instructing in any other disciplines before high rise, or which came first?
Oh, hey, that's a good question. Well, believe it or not, it was survival, because through the Air Cadets, I became a survival instructor. So you're outside, with your hands. And what I liked about that is the people that take the course, they're just as excited as you are. So you're teaching a student who's exciting. And then you get into the fire department and sometimes you're teaching students that aren't as excited. And that was hard. I'm like, why isn't this person excited? We get to fight fires. We get to move a hose line. So it was kind of a letdown for me a little bit when you started instructing in the fire services. Some guys or firefighters just weren't into the job. And if we can talk about this for a second, I coached women's hockey for 7 years, my daughter, but it's actually the women coming on now. And we hire 100 recruits every 20 weeks, a daytime and nighttime recruit class. And the women that are coming on, at least in my perspective, they have that excitement because they have, a little bit more to prove today. They're a minority within a male-dominated fire profession, but I can tell you that every female student that I've instructed has had that same excitement as me. And if you have that same excitement as me of wanting to learn and want to do sets and reps, you're my friend all day long. So, well done to those female firefighters that are out there, making things happen, because it's refreshing as an instructor looking at a student. You feel good with a student that has the same passion as you.
Do you find a distinct difference, though, traveling the circuit and teaching outside of your own department, where that excitement's probably there with people that are paying and choosing to go somewhere versus guys that are having to participate in training in your own department?
Yeah, absolutely. You nailed it. So, you're training at your department, you pay a high social cost when you're passionate. And people say, oh, Brooks is just a passionate firefighter, just ignore them. But I think you should look at those passionate firefighters and the education that goes along with it and the experience that goes along with it. And I know now, but there's less of those negative people than we think. And I have the ability now, not when I first started this, it was crushing to, see people without the same passion as you. And you pay that high social cost and you get teased and you get picked on and, it's the effing blue hose and, yada, yada, yada. And now it's just like, yeah, it is the effing blue hose. It's hydraulics. It's science. We're doing the right thing. But then you go to a conference and everyone's got that passion. Everyone's got that excitement. Everyone understands, math and the hydraulics, and they're all into the job. So if you're having a bad day at your fire department, go to a conference. It is worth the money mentally and worth the money physically to go to a conference and hear like-minded firefighters like ourselves in the classroom, at the bar, at the restaurant, whatever the case may be. You're out socializing. Conference might be an 8-hour in class, but it's really a 24-hour recharge your energy in the class, at the restaurants, at the socials. And then you go back to your department and just understand you're going to go into that little bit of a negativity, but you just prepare for the next conference or find the people within your department that have that same passion, because every fire department has that person. Find your people. Don't treat the other people with disrespect. You got to work with them and you'll be going into fires with them, but just don't overly waste your time on, the conversations. Get to the people that are your people, but treat all people with respect.
Yeah, I think I've said before, seeing yourself as a member of the fire service and not just a member of your department actually helps you see your career completely differently, and your frustrations that everyone has within their own little corner, those dissipate because you're like, well, I'm a firefighter in the fire service. It's different.
Yeah, I agree. And we're all one. I mean, you and I are with different departments, but we talk like we've known each other for 100 years. It's instant. And that's what I mean by finding your people. Find out who you can communicate and be honest and open and tell the truth. Tell them your mistakes. If you can tell someone your mistakes and they give you honest feedback, that's your person. If you tell someone your mistakes and they always say, oh, don't worry, you're fine, and they're just telling you what you want to hear, that's not necessarily your people. Mo Doyle, I don't know if you're introduced to him, but he's that one guy, and there's not a lot of them out there that can tell a friend in the fire service that, hey, you made the mistake, or look at it this view. Whereas those other people that may not be as real will say, oh, yeah, that was a great job. Fantastic. Yes, that fog nozzle worked great. It was the standpipe system that had debris in it that plugged that nozzle. Oh, okay, thank you. Whereas Mo would say, hey, no, you're not following NFPA 1710 or 13E. All standpipe systems have debris in it. We're supposed to be using a Smoothbore nozzle. Shame on you for using a fog nozzle. That's the type of person you got to be friends with. You got to be able to take that constructive criticism.
Is one of the hidden positives of teaching difficult firefighters in your own department, if you're struggling with that, is that they kind of hone you? If you really want to turn those guys around, you really have to know your shit. And you take your licks. It's not just easy street, right? If you're only ever a conference instructor and everyone was applauding you all the time, you might have a different perspective. You might think, oh, this is easy. But I find the guys that used to carve you, like it made you, if you wanted to keep doing that, you had to put some work in.
You did. That's another great point. This is why you do what you do. You're really good at it. You know, you're right, because you'll be excited and you prepare the night before and you got this great course going on and you're excited about the course and it's a high-rise thing, and then the crew's late and they show up with their coffees and they always go to the back of the classroom, and there's a lot of yipping and a lot of chapping and I can't believe we have to be here and blah, blah, blah. And then they ask, hey, are you going to be cutting it short today? Hey, no one ask any questions. You'll keep us here longer. And all that garbage. There's not one instructor out there that hasn't heard this. And you start getting all this garbage thrown at you. Don't take it personal, because these firefighters coming in, if you got the great content and you're well educated on it, I can guarantee the same person that was late, that brought the coffee in, that said, don't ask the questions, you change a guy like that and you make them positive for a moment. In my opinion, that's a win. Or then they start asking questions, or they reach out after the fact. Hey, I was kind of going what you thought about the other day, and said something about we should be using smoothbores for standpipes, not fog nozzles. And where did you get that code again? Like, yeah, NFPA 14, 13E, 17. Thanks for reaching out. It's a win.
Or you'll find that instead of instantly jumping to defend yourself or prove yourself or argue your point, sometimes diving deeper and asking them more and more questions about why they think the way they think. Sometimes those guys haven't really thought things all the way through, and they'll reach the end of what they're capable of understanding very quickly, and it becomes obvious. So sometimes, and you're asking questions, honestly, inquiring, like, okay, let's have a conversation. But instead of me defending myself, I'm just going to ask you more about what you know. But sometimes the guys that are just causing problems and looking to, upset the apple cart, they haven't thought things through as much as you have.
It's funny you say that. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this, where it's the same question or it's the same demeanor, get this negative firefighter, and they come up and they start, yeah, but this, and they start saying something, it's dead wrong, and you don't correct them. You just kind of let them keep speaking, because you're like, there's some firefighters or people in general, doesn't matter what industry you're in, they're just not going to get it. And there's no point in you kind of wasting your time. Again, don't treat them with any disrespect, but you're just not going to change them, narcissistic, whatever the case may be. And the quicker you can read people and be able to take some verbal abuse, it's going to make your career longer and a lot more excitable. And well, that's why I've been doing it for so long. You start off as a new instructor and, you're not doing so well and you get beat up a lot. Then you start paying a social cost within your department. And then you start climbing and gaining more respect and gaining more people. And then you get a bunch of firefighters behind you and everyone says water boils from the bottom. And then you get to a real good point in your career. So my message behind that is, don't be in such a hurry to get there. Recognize that it takes time. Because it's not about just knowing a topic. It's about understanding people, knowing how to give feedback, knowing how to take feedback. And at the end of the day, expect the difficulties, because those difficulties, that slow climb up that mountain, when you get to the top of the mountain, it's a nice, easy transition into retirement in my case, but also just being able to accept people for who they really are.
And your professionalism and integrity and credibility shows when you don't play the gotcha card. Like when you don't fall to the level of trying to one-up somebody, you can respectfully just have a conversation. And if it's obvious that, someone was just trying to cause problems, or maybe they didn't know what they were talking about, you can just leave it and move on. Like, it'll look bad on you if you were arguing to win.
Yeah, another good point. So if someone, meets you or comes to you with some type of resistance or some type of anger, you match that. They're angry, boom, I'm angry back. And now if someone meets me with anger, I don't match them. If someone meets me with excitement, I match them with excitement. If someone, meets me with their negativity, I can't match it. That's a tough thing to learn. That takes, wisdom and life experience. But once you learn that, I'll try and teach anybody.
You don't have to win all the battles. You just got to win the war, right?
Bingo. Bingo.
Specializing in machinery rescue and forcible entry, Rescue Squad Ironworks builds world-class heirloom quality training props for your fire department. Designed and built by firefighters for firefighters, and backed by years of fireground experience and training across North America, they are reliable, realistic, and repeatable, allowing you to train multiple students and be extremely cost-efficient. Find RSI on Instagram at rescue_squad_ironworks or via email at rescuesquadironworks@gmail.com. Let hard work be your legacy. What drew you into high-rise firefighting as a focus?
So I was at a station in North York, great station, great bunch of guys. At that time, they had 2 pumpers in it. When I came from the academy, they added a rescue. The first rescue they put in with North York. So it's like a heavy rescue, but it has a fire pump on it. Big truck, and it was exciting. You're running lots of calls. And then the mega city happened. So mega city is where 6 departments amalgamated. They became known as Toronto Fire, and the call volume started changing. We got shrunk down a bit because now we got Etobicoke running into North York and East York and Scarborough and Etobicoke. And I think I'm not sure how many years I had on now, maybe 12 at the time. And I said, what's the busiest station now that we got these stats and statistics from the mega city? What's the busiest station in Toronto? It was one station. Old Toronto station right downtown is now known as 332. Normally when you put in for a station, you call the station or you go down there, bring some donuts, talk to the crews, see the layout. And I just saw the number and I'm like, that's a high number. I'm putting in a sheet for there. So I showed up just going on a number versus, what shift I want to be on, who I want to work with. I just said, nope, they're busy. If they're busy, I bet you all 4 shifts are great down there. Never even drove by the station, just started there. And every time I'm promoted, I put a sheet in to go back to Adelaide. I get back to Adelaide and that's home. It's been like 20 years now at Toronto's busiest station. Now, a lot of Toronto guys are like, that's not the busiest station. It's the busiest station. It's not the busiest pumper anymore. So you got 314, 325, 426, 345. We have a collective, group of very busy fire trucks, but Adelaide is still the busiest.
And really, when you're talking 20 calls a day or 25 calls a day, we're splitting hairs.
Bingo.
Right.
Bingo. Yeah.
You were saying the high-rise truck was nicknamed U-Turn 1 initially.
It was. And man, I wish I could talk to the people because that truck came out in 1988. I wasn't on the job yet, really ahead of its time. It had a microfiche in it. So you can pull a run cart, put it in the microfiche. Everyone's probably Googling microfiche. And you do the microfiche, and it would give you your pre-plan. It would give you some option. It had scaffolding in it. It had every single thing on a fire truck in modules. But they're big and they're steel and they're heavy. But what it was missing was the deployment model. So you pull out of the station, you make a left, and then the report would come in. It's a residential house fire. They would clear the high rise, make another left. And because there was only one of these high rise units in the city, it went to all the alarm calls within, I think, 5 other stations. So every time a station got an alarm call, the high rise was going to it. It went years and years and years like that, and was the busiest truck at one point because all it did was run alarm calls. Now we've added a second high rise truck. We're on our 3rd generation. We're not quite there yet. And this is constructive criticism. We're not quite there yet with that deployment model because the building's designs keep changing, and the heights and the layout and the construction methods and the standpipes become farther apart. We got to get ahead of this. So the 4th generation of high-rise truck is going to be even better than the first one. But if we learn from the first one, just have every single thing you need for high-rise firefighting in some type of module to be able to take it aloft. So that concept hasn't changed.
Have you always seen alarm calls as reps?
Yeah. my crew will know when I finally became a captain, we have a seniority based promotional system. So it was, you're on the list and your weight. And I told my crew, hey, my expectation is the first alarm call of the day, we're going to stretch. And I made that my expectation. So that's just something you did. And then when we're at a medical call, okay, you can clear, thank you. And then boom, we're hitting the stairwells, we're hitting the cabinets. We count our cadence. So I know every time I take 15 steps, it's a stick of hose. And, you're with other people, you got your medical stuff and you're walking through the hallways, you're going down the stairs. What would a floor below stretch look like? What stairwell is this? Can I do an improvised standpipe? How are we going to ventilate the building? And the medical calls, the alarm calls, it's exactly like you said, it's that set and rep for that next fire call, but be cautious. Because good luck can teach you bad habits. You might start taking the elevator to the fire floor, or you might, have your jacket open, or not have your waist belt done up, or not bring, a set of irons because it's another false alarm call. You have to treat the alarm call and the medical call as if it's a fire. Expect victims, expect fire, and now we can say expect smoke. Treat it like that every time. And when things do go bad, it's going to be a smooth transition. I shouldn't say where I live, but this local fire department where I am, I remember I was with my kids, we're in the pool and the alarm goes off. Obviously, we grab our kids and the lifeguards were well organized. I didn't say, I'm a firefighter. I listened to them. I didn't say anything. I took my kids, we went out, and then the fire department shows up. I'm like, here they come, lights and sirens. And they get out, and the first guy I see, you like him. He's all buttoned up. He's got a hose pack on. He's got a set of irons. Captain gets off the truck, and then the third firefighter comes around the corner. The face piece is dragging on the ground. His jacket's all the way open. His chest strap's not even all the way up. And he doesn't bring any equipment. And that just broke my heart. It just broke my heart. I don't even know what your question was. I just started answering something.
It's like the cigarette or the trash out the window. It's like, I know you now.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
I don't even need to talk to you. I know you.
I love it. Yes. Yeah.
You said to me in your write-up that the Wellesley Street fire really stuck out to you and sort of drove you towards wanting to dive deeper in high-rise. So maybe talk to me about that.
Yeah, it did. And everyone on the high-rise that day was into work. So no one was on loo days. No one was relieving. And Jimmy Green, he was the high-rise captain. I wasn't even an actor there. I was just a buck on the truck. He goes, hey, Brooksy, they want me to act up today, so I'm going to be the chief. You want to drive me? Yes. That keeps the entire high-rise crew together on the truck. The high-rise captain's now a chief, and now I'm driving the chief. And it's going to be the best day ever. I hope we get a fire. I think if we get a fire, we're going to rock this. Everyone is into work today, and everyone's on the high-rise unit. Well, we get this fire, and you're hour 5.5 into it. The high-rise crew gets in trouble. We have 2 maydays, the captain and another firefighter self-rescues. And you're sending all these aggressive firefighters forward, and they're losing, and they're coming back. And then you get Regent Park show up. Well, they're going to put the fire out. These are badass firefighters. They're still badass. And then they go downrange, and they come back out. And these guys. You fought fires with these guys, and we're not winning this. And the look on their face of exhaustion. And it was after that fire, I realized, oh my God, you thought you knew it all to going into that fire. And now I know how much I didn't know about that fire. We've developed multiple tactics thanks to Wellesley Street, but that changed me, whereas I don't want to stop learning. I'm going to take my mom's advice. I'm going to keep studying. I'm going to keep learning. I'm going to take fires globally, figure out what went wrong, what went right, and how can we change the fire service. So some of the tactics that I have is, certainly in my department, they're just shaking your head. That won't work. That's crazy. The Bresnan distributor is a 200-year-old nozzle. What are you using it for, EV fire exposure? Well, because, Chief, the science behind it doesn't change. It flows this much water. It can fight this much heat release rate. If it's a wind-impacted fire, I don't care what you have, you can't make a push down a hallway. We need to hit it from the exterior. We need to hit it from the floor below. We need to flank it. So, running those scenarios through your head, what would you do? Feeding that with firefighters like yourself, going to conferences, getting that positive feedback. It's the only way we're going to change the fire service.
Has this been a perfect storm for you too with the FSRI and all the data that came out? Has it really helped hone what you do?
Big time, because it's not Brent Brooks saying it. Even if I came up with an idea and someone comes to me, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, here's the study, FSRI. And the good firefighter will actually go read that study. Now you just made a friend. The other firefighter will go, oh, you're always bringing up the study stuff. Yeah, let them go. That's not a fish that you want to catch.
But yet they want you to have a bulletproof answer and prove what you're saying. So then you do, and then that's a problem.
That's a problem. Especially if you get it wrong. Yeah, you don't want to get it wrong. But FSRI, UL, and people still have problems with some of their science or some of their methods. And that's okay to poke holes in theories, because when you poke holes in theories, maybe the person didn't think of something. And if someone pokes holes in my theory, well, I go home at night, I'm like, yeah, what if they're right? Because I remember presenting theories and they're just saying, no, nope, not even looking at it. I got 30 years on. I'm not looking at this suggestion from a young kid. Okay. But now I know, yeah, poke holes in my theory, because if you poke holes in my theory, I'm going to come up with a new theory with the holes that you poked in it. Now we got ourselves a better strategy, a better plan. So that feedback, yeah, it's so important.
How did you transition from teaching within your own department to conferences and then globally? And maybe just walk me through getting involved with the Council of Tall Buildings.
So, yeah, it's interesting you say that, because, we're Canadians. You go to the States or you go overseas. I remember the first time I was in the States and the guy goes, look, kid, welcome to the US, but I'm from a big department and this is going to be a wasted day. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, how many stations do you have? He goes, we have 8. Oh, wow, that's a big department. Meanwhile, that's a district in my world. So, but I didn't say anything. I went along, I started talking, and then I said, oh, by the way, Toronto has 83 stations, 3,200 firefighters, blah, blah, blah. And then he sits back, and then you get this kind of a weird buy-in. But that's with his personality, because Mike Lombardo, I went to his volunteer fire department. You got guys that are 60 years old, you got young people coming on, and they're not running the amount of calls of us, but working with them and seeing different ways of doing things. Bring that back to Toronto, bring it back to the big department, because everyone has some type of special trick or technique or a better way of doing something. So yeah, I don't care how big you are, how small you are. I think the smallest fire department I went to, they're getting 4 firefighters at a fire. That's it. Everyone else is volunteer. In Mike's case, 100% volunteer. And if you're going to volunteer your time, I'm going to volunteer my time. Going to the conferences, you're finding those like-minded people, and you leave the conference and you come back and you're all excited and you're like, oh my God, like I didn't think of that. I got to a point in, the conference circuit where things started to be very similar. And I needed to know the exact tactic that I need to do. They said conferences are a big smorgasbord, go to all the classes, take a little bit from each class, which is true. But if we got to write an SOP and an SOG or a training note, I need to put a tactic in there. I want to know exactly how to put that fire out. And I want to know the science behind that fire growth and the speed and what can affect it. Because if I know how fast that fire grows and its speed, then I know how fast I need to be and what type of water I need to match that fire and then beat it. Because if not, I'm going to lose. We're telling people now, yeah, you're going interior with a portable monitor. No, it's got the word monitor in it. It's only good for a ground-based attack. It's a defensive weapon. I said, no, it's portable for a reason. And a ground monitor is something that fixed, but a portable monitor is an interior fire attack weapon. They go, well, when would you ever use it? I said, I would use it if I pulled up and I need 65 millimeter hose or 2.5-inch hose line, and that fire needs 500 GPMs, I'm taking in a portable monitor. Yeah, but it's heavy. It weighs 20 pounds. And you're right. So I'm going to switch to a hit and move tactic when I use the big hose, and when I use the big monitor, I'm using the hit and move tactic. Yeah, but it's better to knee walk it. That's true. If you're using a 45 or an 1.75-inch hose line, knee walk it. That's a flow and go. But when you start switching to big water tactics, it's hit and move, but you're using a 100-foot reach of stream. You're using 265 gallons per minute. It is a hit and move weapon. So use it as such. So be able to transition based on the fire that you're going to encounter or possibly encounter. Think about how fast that fire is going to spread. And I bet you, especially with today's fires and today's construction, you're going to be pulling the big line more often than you are the smaller line.
Did you start to meet engineers and guys that were involved in these different groups at conferences, or how did you get hooked up with them?
Yeah, I did. So basically what was happening, going to conferences, traveling the world, learning from, mentors, and there was a disconnect between, if you need to break glass, you're going to do this. You need to take, a cabinet, go from the floor below, you're going to do this. And I started looking at door swings. I started looking at glass, started, looking at how fire spreads through hidden voids. I'm like, man, I kind of need to know how that's put together because I'm taking that apart. I need to see what's in that wall. Why is that fire showing over there, no smoke, and over here with a lot of smoke. Like, that doesn't make sense. I mean, there's two fires in the building. So joining the Council of Tall Buildings basically gets you a seat with the engineers, designers, and architects. And now I can ask them those conference type questions at the social at night and saying, hey, I'm firefighter boots on the ground. And, we ran this exterior cladding fire and we really struggled at it. How is this put together? Oh yeah, great question, kid. And maybe if you went 5 floors, we have a lintel or something, and you can attack it from there. And what that has spawned, the Council of Tall Buildings, it's now connecting the dots, because they're building these buildings. We're going to put in single staircases. Oh, that's great. But we're going to sprinkler it for the firefighters, and we're going to put the cabinets farther apart. And now we can go with single stairs because protected by sprinklers. Well, I'll tell that designer, hey, we're taking 3 lines and attacking a backup and one above the fire. How does that work in your single staircase? And what if I get one person with disabilities? And they're like, oh, no, it's okay. We're going to put evac systems in it, and we're going to tell them to shelter in place. And I said, okay, what does that look like after 18 minutes if we can't put the fire out and that smoke spreading? Well, you got a 2-hour fire rating. The smoke will go out the windows or whatever. I'm like, well, okay, what about the Wellesley Street fire? What about, in on the park? What about the one in New York City, Twin Parks? What about Grenfell? What about Hong Kong? Like, these fires are continue to happen. And like, oh, well, yeah, we never thought about that. And what about people with disabilities? And occupant behavior changes after 18 minutes. The longer you're pressured with the alarm or with the smell of smoke or visually seeing the smoke, or, picking up your smartphone and not being able to see exactly what's happening in your life right now that you're so used to, you're going to eventually make the wrong decision. That's huge. So we have to connect the dots between engineers, designers, and architects to be able to share each other's perspective to come up with the best end result for the occupants. And I believe we can make safer buildings. We see that in Singapore. We see that in other places around the world where they've made that connection. They're delivering a safer, better product for the firefighters and, most importantly, the occupants in the building. We need to do that in North America. So the Council of Tall Buildings is international. It's not a Canadian thing. They're actually based out of Chicago.
Did you always understand how big of a problem smoke is in high-rise buildings, or did that sort of come to fruition through your research and your studies?
It came through the research and the studies, because we see what happens when compartmentalization fails in these buildings. We see now how fast smoke spreads. We now understand that we can get air to people quicker than we can water. So we're learning positive pressure isolation. We're learning neutral planes. We're using buoyancy. We're understanding stack effect. Now that came from the engineers and designers and architects that gave us that feedback. And we're piecing all this together to say, hey, when it comes to a high-rise fire, we are smoke fighters first, we're firefighters second. And understanding that, the more doors that we prop open, the more we're spreading smoke. I got an article out in Fire Engineering on the first domino of high-rise firefighting, and talks about the 2-inch spring clamp, talks about caution tape, and talks about how we can start seeing air movement prior to getting to our target when we get to the hallways and the stairwells by using the spring clamp, by using the caution tape. And firefighters now realize that, hey, when I go into a house fire, I can take a window and I can immediately see what's happening. But the front door of a high-rise fire is a window. It's either allowing air in or bringing air down and out. The 2-inch spring clamp helps you recognize that, understanding stack effect, seeing what's happening in the stairwells, all with that 2-inch spring clamp. It gets you understanding the spread of smoke. It's adding multiple perspectives together.
You said in your write-up that the gap between building design and fireground reality is really wide and dangerous. Is there hope that gap is closing? Do you see that getting better, or is design and everything just completely oblivious and speeding away from us where we're not going to be able to keep up?
It is speeding away from us. When I started traveling the world looking at, the super tall buildings, I was told, hey, Brooksy, why are you looking at that stuff? We have no super talls in Canada. Well, now we're going to have 10 in my city. So every fire department I go to, even smaller departments, they'll say, I don't know why we're having high-rise training. We don't have any high-rise buildings in our city. Next thing you know, they got mid-rise, they got high-rise. You cannot keep up to how fast your city is developing. You got to get ahead. And what's really cool, and a lot of people don't know this, that city planners in most cities are forecasting what their city is going to look like in 2050. So we know how much water, we know how much buildings, we know how much firefighters and cops and police, whatever we need to have. Fire departments have to forecast as well. Look at the building plans, see what they're forecasting, and now we can design the future of our fire department, and then look at the design, the construction, the materials that they're using. And if we get input now, we can tell them, hey, we're taking 3 lines in your single staircase. It's not going to work for us. It's certainly not going to work for them. Or, hey, when we lose that stairwell, we lose the upper floor shortly after. An occupant opens the door, we lose that floor. And our department's only, this big. We only have this much staffing. The more that smoke spreads, the more those people open doors, the more our problems start to escalate. You're not going to win. So we need to get in early, give that feedback, give them our expertise, tell them our scenarios, tell them what's happened in our history. Now they can say, oh yeah, you know what, the single staircase, that ain't going to work. Or the standpipe riser, we're now fighting lithium ion fires. They're going to have sustained water. We need to make a different system.
Looking back on how you've navigated your career, is there any advice you give to firefighters now about how to mentally and physically make it to the end? How to see retirement?
Ooh, that's a good one. Man, I guess one of my mentors would be Daryl Liggins. He retired before me. I know Jimmy Davis is thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. And we are all kind of on the same page on this. When I talk to recruits and I talk to new firefighters, I'm not bullying them. I'm not teasing them. I'm talking to them as if they got 30 years of experience on, maybe not those advanced things, but I'm talking to them as equal, and I'm allowing them to make mistakes. I'm not correcting them the second I see a mistake unless it's unsafe, but I allow them to make the mistake, and then they come back and I know exactly how to correct them, but I'm not. Hey, how do you think you did there? Hey, you know what? When I pulled that and I put on my left shoulder, when I made that next turn, I feel it'd be better if it was on my other shoulder, because when I make that turn, it's going to flake off nicely. And I'm just like, yep, I didn't have to tell you that. You experienced the right way to do it and the wrong way to do it. So you got to let them fail a little bit. You got to let them make that mistake, because now it's in their Rolodex. Now it's in their brain. So treat them as equals, allow them to make mistakes. You're going to get a better candidate. And that same firefighter, when he becomes my age, is going to say, man, I wish I would have knew what I knew now. What if we could eliminate that and shorten that gap? Everyone's going to have a good 30-year career, safe and healthy. Jump into mental health. If you talk about the mental health, which we were never allowed to cry, never allowed to, talk about mental health. And now that I'm, learning more, and, you're feeling stressed, go for a run. You're feeling anxious, lift some weights. If you're depressed, go out and get some sunlight. And there's basically 5 core things for mental health. We should be the most physically fit, mentally fit agency in the world, because we get to get sunlight every day. We get to lift weights every day. We get to do sets and reps and be active. So I guess my red flag now, looking back, over the career, we just had a firefighter take his life last week, unfortunately, again. Like this is consistent. When you see someone who used to train and, used to get out, and they're not doing that anymore, that's your red flag. Or if you're looking at yourself, and I just want to sit on the couch, I don't want to do anything today. And if that becomes consistent, that's your red flag, because you'll get into trouble mentally before you even recognize it. And when you do get into big trouble, you're in deep, you're in a hole, and you need some help to get out. So to prevent getting there, continue to learn, watch your friends. That firefighter that just died in Chile there a couple of days ago, right away I reached out. I heard about the fire. Here's my condolences. If you need anything, I'm here. And then follow up with that, 2 weeks later. Hey, how you making out? I've been seeing stuff in the news about that fire. I just hope everyone's okay, and just, let you know I'm still here. We got to start doing that more often. Check up on our friends. What they say, love is blind and the neighbors aren't. You will notice something in a colleague and a friend before they do. So start looking for those red flags. I don't want to train. I don't want to get outside and do stuff. I think that's a red flag.
You mentioned Jimmy Davis and Daryl Liggins. Maybe just take a few moments and talk about other guides and mentors that you had that helped shape you.
Yeah, and while we're talking about mentors, I'll just throw in Jack Murphy and Jerry Tracy as well, and Clark Lamping, Isaacson, all those guys. I mean, there's too many names. You would do a show on who my mentors are, but those are my inner circle. And those are the people that I can tell that I'm having a bad day, and I can tell them a theory or a tactic, and they're going to give me honest advice. We talked about this kind of at the start of the show, is the people that give you the honest advice, that constructive criticism, those are your true friends. Those are the ones that have your back.
Yeah, talk to me about Bill Guston and Paul Grimwood.
Yeah, those are my two mentors. I remember the first time I met Paul Grimwood, and you read his books, you know his articles, but you never see his face. And I'm in London, England, and I'm going to speak. I mean, this is the world stage, and I'm there, and I'm excited. And Russ comes up to me, goes, "I want you to meet someone." I'm like, "Oh, perfect, cool. Who's this?" And he goes, "This is Paul Grimwood." I'm like, "Oh, hey, Paul, nice to meet you." Didn't even click in. I didn't even click in. And this is my mentor, the guy I flew across the world to go see. Then they say, "Well, hurry up. You guys are going on stage. You're on a panel." And I get up to the panel, and that's what I was nervous about. And I got, people from, multiple different countries are on this panel. And Paul sits beside me, and I look over kind of nonchalant, and I'm like, "Holy shit, this is Paul Grimwood. Like, this is the Paul Grimwood." And then I'm looking at him, and I'm like super excited. But at the same time, you've got 100 and some people in front of you. They're about to ask difficult questions. You got a script. And I'm like, I am sitting beside frickin' Paul Grimwood. and I'm nervous, and I'm sweating, and I'm drinking water. And I think he recognized that, and he's looking at me, and I'm just like, we need to take a picture. like we need to do something. And I had his book, and I wanted him to sign it, but I was so freaking nervous, I couldn't ask him to sign it. And then I decided, I'm going to go to this is another year, and we're like, I'm going to take the book, break to a station, get him to sign it. Like, I missed that opportunity. Went there, great trip. Gerald Mann from Australia and I, and then we found out that Paul was sick, and I never got that book signed. Yeah, that's a tough one. But his readings are still out there today, and then that transfers over to Bill Guston. I remember Bill called me up, and he's like, "Brent Brooks." I'm like, "Yes, sir." And he says, "I'm Bill Guston." Now I know who Bill Guston is, and I'm in my environment, back home in Canada. And, he starts asking me these questions, and I said, "Yeah, I'm going to see you at H Rock." He goes, "You're going to see him at H Rock." And he's not going to know who I am. So we're in the lobby, and Bill Guston goes, "Brent Brooks." I'm like, "Oh my God." We start talking, we start bouncing stuff off each other. And, you're with other colleagues, and then you start throwing out theories, and people they don't know me. So they start attacking me, in front of Bill on my theories. And Bill's like, "Well, just give him a second, let him speak." So I keep speaking. And, Bill might say, "You know what? We should talk about that." So he'd call me up because "You're saying about not flushing the standpipe system. We need to flush the standpipe system because this, that, and the other thing." Go, "Yeah, but Bill, every fire that I've been at, I go to flush the standpipe system. How long am I flushing it for?" And he pauses for a moment. He goes, "You might be onto something." And then he goes, "How would you like to be on Hump Day Hangout? You can talk high rise." "Oh my God, sure. Yeah, I'd love to be on it." So we get on it, and then you get, Daryl, you get Dugan's on there, and, these celebrity firefighters, you're blown away, and they got all this good advice. They're like, "Oh, okay, Brent Brooks from Toronto, Canada, my Canadian brother, he's going to talk about high rise firefighting." And I get a couple sentences into it, and then they all start jumping in and, giving their input. And I really never got to say anything on the show. And I'm like, well, kind of bombed that one, but man, it was nice. And then Bill, he sends an email out. He goes, "Okay, guys, next week, we're going to talk about this." I'm like, "Oh, he included me in the email. My bad." He goes, "No," he goes, "You're part of the show." I'm like, "What do you mean you're part of the show?" He goes, "Well, you'll be our subject matter expert for high rise, and you're part of the show." I go, "Yeah, but next week's has." He goes, "Kid, you're into the job. Firefighting, and you're my mentor." I'm like, "What?" And then that's when I realized that equalness that Bill portrayed, he just went out and found his people and built those people around him. So when he lost his life, that was another hard blow, to lose Paul and then to lose Bill. And those are your mentors. Those are, the people you bounce stuff off. Personally, those were two very tough ones. And being with Daryl and being with Clark and being with Jimmy Davis and Dugan and all those guys at the funeral and Jack Murphy and Jerry Trade. I mean, I could go on, mentioning the people, we all found comfort in each other. We're the same family. And you said it earlier, we're a fire service. And although it was tough, we're getting better at understanding our feelings and the mental health and fire service. So yeah, let's just keep going. And I want to be like Bill Guston. I want to be like Paul Grimwood.
Looking forward now, are you thinking about succession planning?
Absolutely. I'm meeting so many people, like Montgomery from Central York. He volunteers his time. He has the same passion. And another guy, Kent, he's an engineer, but he's building models that shows smoke movement and ventilation and stack effect, the science behind it. There's a lot of people coming up. Ches, she's in all my presentations, a female firefighter that can move a 2.5 or 65 millimeter hose by herself on the hinge side, on the non-hinge side, with an automatic door closure, without an automatic door closure. The smallest female firefighter we ever hired is rocking it in the real world on the fire ground. So imagine what her 30 years are going to look like. I was a little bit of bully, a certain portion of my career because I was being bullied, and now I just bully the next person. And now I'm not. And my station's never been as clean. And the new people all want to train. They want to wash their trucks. They're asking the question why. Yeah, it's refreshing to see the future of the fire service. So succession plan, succession plan, succession plan. Don't hoard that stuff, man. Don't hoard it.
What does 2026 look like for you for travel and teaching?
So it's funny you say that because it's 2025. We're getting into it, and I got 16 conferences. And it's no secret I've done over 100 different fire departments at donated time. And I got 16 conferences. That doesn't, include the fire departments. I always use my holidays for conferences. We have that long stretch off. So that's when I do the fire departments. Or like in your case, we took 4 days and kind of spread it out when I could. Yeah, 2026 can't be like that. Because what's happening now is you're getting all this good information in, but you're getting very little output to the end user, and that's the fire service. So I'm hitting all these little targets, and those targets are working. They're spreading. We've created a ripple that's created a wave, but I think we need a bigger wave. So I want to try and develop more of the content that's understandable, that we can deliver. And I put this thing out there. If any fire department, I don't care how big, how small, or where you are globally, if you're willing to do some research and development, take my content, call it yours, whatever you want to do to it, but take it, run with it, and let's distribute it as a whole. That's what I want to do for 2026. I got 31 years on with Toronto Fire. I need to, with this inner circle of all the names that I've been saying all episode, we need to get that out there. And Jimmy Davis he's sharing the same thing as me. It was Brooksy. He goes, we're on this treadmill, regurgitating the same stuff. We got to get it out there. I go, we do. It might be time to retire and ask these fire departments, pay for my travel, pay for my time. I want to come and I want to share my experiences with you. And you're not getting the Chicago experience. You're not getting the Toronto experience. You're not getting the New York experience. You're getting the experiences from multiple conferences, multiple different departments. Because when we did your department, we talked about, water supply issues. We talk about drafting. We talk about being short-staffed. That is the stuff that I need from you to go to the next fire department and say, hey, this is what they do at this department. That might work for you. The Toronto thing's not going to work for you. So yeah, let's just keep doing it. So 2026, I think this will be my decision year on whether I'm going to retire, whether or not I'm going to do this big picture and travel teaching, or stay. Big decisions in 2026.
I appreciate you coming up and spending the time you did with us. I loved how excited you were to adapt what you did for our department, for the size of the department. So just, if people don't understand, right, going from Toronto, all those stations down to a one-station department and still being able to adapt everything. You came up the day before the first class, you obviously went around the town and took pictures and, adapted your presentation specifically for our department. So really special touches that really show that you really care about who you're going to be talking to and what you're doing, because you could just literally go department to department, give the same presentation everywhere you go and pack your bags and leave. People would still get value out of that. I'm not saying that there wouldn't be value in that. There is, but man, it's something special when you really think about where you're going, who you're talking to, and hone what you do for those people. It's noticeable.
Well, I appreciate that. Those are very, very kind words. And I know Jimmy Davis is the same thing. Everyone's like, why are you stressed out about your next presentation? Because I'm getting new information. I'm getting better science. I'm finding out better ways to, deliver that message. I've never given the same presentation twice. I know he hasn't. It's impossible to do when you're always learning, always finding a better way to do things. But no, I appreciate those kind words. Thank you. even when I travel to other fire departments, and I think I did it with your department, where I take pictures of your city, standpipe systems and systems. I embed it in my program, but I'm pretending like it's Toronto. And then I end up telling you, hey, these pictures? These are all your cities. And I did it it was somewhere in Canada. And I said, this is your city, but they noticed palm trees in the background. But I even took like the US flag and put the Canada flag on it. But then someone clued in, there's palm trees with Canada flags. I said, yep. I think it was Chula Vista Fire. That's Chula Vista fire trucks. And it was in Chula Vista, sorry. And then, to make a long story short, then they realized I was using their city in the presentation. So now you have that instant buy-in. Yeah, it can happen in Toronto. It is happening in Toronto, but it is happening in your city.
Very easily, a smaller department could think, well, we're not Toronto. We can't do what they do. We don't have the staffing. We don't even have the buildings they have. And you even brought up the point that you guys have everything we have here. Maybe not the pee in the stairwells, but you have all these features that Toronto has, just a smaller amount of them. But we had all the features that you encounter in other cities. You engage everybody and make them realize, like, no, firefighting's firefighting. And we need to be even more on top of things because we can't depend on 15 trucks coming. And then we don't need, like you said, put more people on the hand line. It just complicates things, right? So here's how you guys are actually really well situated to do this. Like, it really engages everyone, gets everyone excited, and makes them realize, no, we can do this.
Yeah, it's true. A line of duty death in a big department is the exact same line of duty death in a small department. The feelings, the hurt, the trauma that goes along with line of duty death, you don't want them to experience, what you've experienced or vice versa. We got to prevent that type of stuff from happening. And this is the way to do it, it's okay to donate your time. And I get that if I really want to take this to the next level, I would have to charge. Now I have that income and now I make a business and the guys that are out there doing it, excellent. Keep doing it, because if people are hiring you to come train them, that means their department is not capable of providing that training. They need you, and you should be taking money for it. In my case, I'm actually researching. So that's the difference. I'm donating my time, to research firefighting. I'm teaching, but I'm receiving at the same point. You pay someone, they're going to bring you the best up-to-date tactics and equipment, I hope they are anyways, and teach you the science behind it so your department can take it forward. Yeah, you should definitely be paid for that. Just two different silos or two different people doing something similar.
Well, it was great when we finally got to meet, even though we're very close by each other. We finally got to connect in Pensacola. It was at a conference.
Yes.
And we talked about this and we finally made it happen. So I appreciate your time. It's always great to talk to you.
Same. You're into the job, I'm into the job. It's easy.